this is a really challenging conversation for a lot of people. A lot of people struggle to really wrap their minds around it, that if somebody doesn't contribute to your life in a powerful way, in a positive way, if they don't uplift you, if they don't inspire you, if they don't make you a better person, whether you love that person or not, whether you care about that person or not, they really don't have a valuable place in your life. And a lot of people struggle with that. A lot of people cling to relationships that, well, they're my best friend. I've known them for all these years, or they're my family. And how could I ever turn my back on family? And I want to be clear, I'm not saying to necessarily turn your back on anyone, but some relationships, in order for you to have a fulfilling life, in order for you to have a successful life, in order for you to have the kinds of relationships you want and the kinds of things you want in other areas of your life, you're going to need some space between those people. There's just a saying, it's something like you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And if you look around and really ask yourself, like, the 5 people I spend the most time with, the 5 people I talk to the most, if I look at their life, if I look at their relationship, if I look at their lifestyle, if I look at how they spend their time, the things they do, if I look at the conversations they have and the kinds of things they talk about and the kinds of topics they're into and they entertain, is that the kind of life I really want to have? Is that the kind of lifestyle that I want to live? And it's a neutral question, no judgment on it. But honestly, look at that for yourself. Maybe the answer is like, yeah, absolutely. I'm surrounded by amazing people. If that's so, then great, you're right on track. But if that's not so, if you look around, you're like, man, like I'm surrounded by a lot of negative people, a lot of negative conversations. They don't really have healthy relationships. I mean, you think about it like this, if everybody you know, maybe your parents growing up or your past relationships or your friends' relationships, if they've always had relationships where people fight and argue and a lot of conflict and a lot of aggression towards each other and a lot of dissatisfaction in the relationship, and that's most of what you've seen in relationships, that's most of what you know, then when I tell you that my wife and I never fight, you probably think I'm lying about that, or you probably think like I'm making that up. But it's not that it can't happen or it isn't possible, but until you have some experience of it, it's really tough for you to really conceive that. And so a lot of people are in really unhealthy relationships, but they just don't recognize that. They think that's just the way relationships are. They don't recognize that there's a whole possibility for relationships that they're not even really entertaining as real because they've never seen it. They've never seen it around them. They've never seen it in their friends. A lot of people tell us they want a loving, conscious relationship, a mutual respect based on respect and dignity and trust. And people say they want a relationship like that, but then they surround themselves with people who complain about their relationships, and they complain about their significant other, and they complain about how men and women are, and they talk down about each other and other people and dating. And if you live in that kind of environment, if that's the water you swim in, the likelihood of you ever experiencing something different than that is very, very small. It's very unlikely. And the thing is, really, like, you've got to get clear about the lifestyle that you want to have. You've got to get clear about the kind of life that you want to have, the kind of experiences you want to have in your life. You've got to get really clear about that, and you've got to go out and find people who are living examples of that. Find people who are living that day in and day out, and then find people who are also working on that, like you, like people just like you who are like, I know this is a possibility. I want this. I want to have this in my life. I want to have this kind of relationship. I want to make this kind of money. I want to be able to go on these kinds of trips. Whatever it is, it works for everything. But you've got to surround yourself with people that are living examples of the life that you want to have. So look around your life, and if you're surrounded by people who aren't uplifting you and getting you closer to the kind of life you want to have, and whether it's family, friends, significant others, like, something's got to shift. Something's got to shift. You are the product of the environment that you live in, but you also create the environment you live in. So it's like a self-fulfilling cycle. You create the environment and then become the product of it. So if you don't like the product or the results that you're getting in terms of your relationships, you've got to find people who have the kind of relationships you want and learn from them. Study the relationships that they have.